welcome to another episode of the Diaspora Dialogue series with LA. I am Lillian, your host on this program. I'm excited to bring to you another conversation with a member of the diaspora telling us their story and sharing with us the blessings of the new land, the beauty of the homeland, and the benefits of integration. And guess what? We have gotten some feedback from some of our clients, so we're really going to be including a conversation about some major challenges they've encountered and how they were able to navigate to a positive outcome. You're listening to us, you may be listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, watching us on YouTube, or following our story on Facebook, on Instagram. You know what to do. Encourage you to like, share, and provide your feedback to us. Let us know what you think about these conversations that we are having. Today, my guest on the Diaspora Dialogue series is somebody I've known for a very long time. It will be sort of strange to call her a friend because when you've known somebody for so long, there's kind of transition from friends and become a sister. And if you know us in the African culture, we had a guest said, the children drew the line like mommy. Everybody can be auntie and everybody can be uncle. But for us old school Africans, it goes that way. Everybody's your sister after they've been in your life for a very long time. So I'd like to welcome my sister, my friend, my colleague, my so many things, Buki Ikenga. Buki, you're welcome to Diaspora Dialogue Series with LA.
Thank you so much, Lillian. I really appreciate what you're doing with this program, and I'm glad that you gave us an opportunity to share our story. Yeah, really happy to be here.
Great. So, Buki, we go back a long way, and I think our paths first crossed maybe in Unilag and then maybe in Christ Chapel International Churches. But tell me a little bit about who is Buki and how was it like growing up in Nigeria?
Okay, Buki, my name is Bukola, and my maiden name at the time was Onikoro. So I'm a third child of a family of five. My father, Reverend A. Onikoro, and my mother, Mami Adironke Onikoro. So I have an elder brother, an elder sister, a younger brother, and a younger sister. So I just balance the family. And so growing up in Nigeria, I don't know, there's this thing about third children. They seem to be the ones that are more outspoken than their elder ones. They're like, you want to chance me? No way, kind of a thing. So I will tell this quick story about when we were growing up. I went to the same primary school with my younger sister, sorry, with my elder sister, All Saints Anglican Primary School at Yaba, Akukade. So we were at a point, I think, at the beginning of my second year, my primary two, I had an accident and it affected my legs. So I had to use crutches to work. So we were going to school and coming back at the same time. There was a lady that was baking cake. There was a house along school area, if you're familiar with Montgomery. Yeah, but my sister loved to go there and buy cake. And me, I had a loud voice. So this afternoon, we're coming back from school, and she had disappeared up there. And I was looking for her. And I had this crutch, and I used to be very tiny. I had this crutch. And then her friend told me she was upset. So I stood there, at the bottom of the staircase. I'm like, Boss! Ola sada yani keki. Oda yani keki lo ma pa. Boss! Everybody just burst into
My goodness.
yeah. Yeah. So growing up in Nigeria was a delight. I was myself. I could be who I wanted to be. I did my secondary school at Federal Government College, Janiki, where I also did an A level. So I happened to be the head girl at the time. And during my first level up to Form 5, there used to be some group of naughty children, boys would always be boys. We call them naughty rebels. And I was the only one that could stand them. All the girls were afraid of them, but they were afraid of me. So they gave me a name called Short and Mujeros.
Ado.
One time, years later, I met one of them at the airport, and we were gisting. And I was like, Sam, Short and Mujeros. Are you still like that? Anyways, those were
it's
days.
it's it's always fun growing up and remembering those stories. I mean, I was in Nigeria recently. I went for my high school reunion, so I know that you stay connected to these people, and it's always nice to run into them. So you, this was you growing up as the middle child, really making sure nobody chanced you just because you didn't come first, and then having your primary school, federal government college, University of Lagos, and doing all the work. At any point in time when you were growing up, was this a thought that, somewhere further down the line you were going to be living abroad?
Um, Not exactly. Rather, it was more like I was going to study abroad.
Okay.
So, by the time I got into the university, my second year, I actually wanted to do medicine. But you know how you do jam, every now and then, which is why I had to go back for my A levels. At the
Okay.
end of the day, when I got into University of Lagos, I was like stuck on, I want to do this medicine, but I probably would not do it here. Or maybe if I'm not going to do medicine, I think by my second year, I'd settled for taking my first degree, which was in chemistry. And I was like, okay, if medicine is not my path, then I need to follow this path to the highest point. So I thought, okay, I would go for a master's and then a doctorate. But then I wanted to do this abroad. So I started to do some research. I found some schools in Canada and that kind of a thing. And I did some writing at the time, but it didn't amount to anything. And I just focused on my first degree and completed it at Unilag. Now, when I finished at Unilag, I
That's
also
University
was
of Lagos
thinking,
for those who do not know
oh,
Unilag, right?
sorry, I'm sorry, University of Lagos, Akoka. When I was done at Unilag, because I already had a mind of taking a master's and possibly a PhD, I started to look outside of the country. And then I didn't limit myself to outside of the country alone. I also tried within. But in my search, it was as far as China. Yeah, China, then the US. And then at the end of the day, I ended up taking my master's degree in back. I went back to UNILAG for the master's degree, but it was because they were offering something that I was interested in. I loved to do a research and see what's the future going to be like. At the time when I was looking to do my master's in China, I was actually trying to settle into um, herbal medicine. All the late Kafaru, that woman. Yeah,
Elizabeth Cavaro,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. So that was before she broke into it. And then
Mm-hmm.
once she broke into it, and I hadn't even got into school at the time, then I thought, okay, so what's the next thing that's going to trend? And it was environmental stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So our climate was changing, the environment was changing, and this was going to be something in the future. So I had a great interest in that. And while I was researching for schools that could offer it outside of the country, I was also within the country, and I had friends back at home who were already. There was one of my friends in particular that was already taking her master's. No, she had gone on to a PhD at Unilag, and she was in sciences. So when they were going to start off their environmental management course, she was in the know, and
Okay.
she knew this was a discussion we had been having because she knew that I had been searching outside. So she came and, hey, Buki, this is that, and that was how, you know, I went back to Unilag as their first batch on environmental management.
Wow. So you now did your master's environmental management, and it's like, I presume that since you were the first batch, it will seem like there was a new path, as it were, that was opening in that. So, how did you transition from being a pioneering student in a new course with potentials for the country, I guess, or for the industry, to relocating abroad? How did that
Question.
happen?
Very good question. So by this time, I'd settled into what I wanted to be in, and I'd started to practice in there. More so, one of the areas that I developed interest in was in ISO standards,
Okay.
International Standard Organization, and that was because they have a different pathway to continually improving the environment. It was different from what everyone was used to, which was the carrot and stick. So if you maintain the environment in this way, then you gain this um, reward. If you don't, then
You get this
you
punishment.
fail penalty, you face a penalty. But this was a totally different approach. It was more like, think about it. Look, this is for all of us. If you do it, you're doing it for us. If you don't, you're doing it for us. You're messing it up for your children and your children's children and all of that. So selling this in the industry to me was a way of it's like preaching to someone, right? So I started my career more in that area, and because it was an international standard, it could sell anywhere.
Seriously.
Even at that, I still hadn't focused. I still hadn't placed my mind on living abroad. For me, it was okay. Nigeria go better, Africa go better, Nigeria go better. Oh, Andrew, no check out. You know, So I was like, yeah, we will go out there, we do all the studies, or we impact and come back. However, when I got into marriage, it was my husband's thoughts, and his thoughts was like, you know what, we would give our families better opportunity out there. For one thing, um, of course, we have friends who have already gone ahead and all of that, and we do. You are one of them, GD, and all of that. We do keep in touch, and you get to realize that, unfortunately, things went like getting better at home, and everyone likes to go look for green pastures, something that is better than where you're at, where you can maximize your potential and also help your children to maximize their potential.
Mhm.
So it was that thought that made my husband and I to relocate to Canada.
Awesome. So when you talk about maximizing potentials, I'm going to take this in two phases. One phase, I'll start by with any surprises, So you're saying that you came and the goal was to maximize potential. And maybe you thought about certain things. I always tell people like, what was the like, is this the abroad? Kind of thing. Did you have any, or have you had any of those experiences where you're like, okay, we're coming here because this abroad is supposed to be all of that. And then you had this reality check, culture shock, or something that was like, I had no idea. Did you have any of those experiences?
Yeah, there would always be culture shock if you're coming straight from Nigeria into any other space outside of Nigeria, more so the West. Going into other African countries, you might not have any culture shock, or it might just be very little.
Mhm.
But to the West, the first thing here, and this is pretty funny, when they speak, now you can hear that I have adapted, and now I sing when I speak, but that wasn't what it used to be. And I was like, how do you talk if you want to talk? What is this singing? Right? So that was the first bit of it. And
Mhm.
then each culture always have a way of doing their own things. Here, their culture is a little bit, not a little bit, they have quite a lot of things that are different from ours, up to the point of working. Um, we're fortunate to have been able to attend one of their newcomers. They have a center for newcomers, um, where they would give you some level of orientation as to, hey, this is what the culture is like here.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're working, let's say we're working on a path,
Mm-hmm.
the culture is that you walk to your right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who does that in Nigeria? I waka my own, you waka your own.
I know, right? I know. I
Yeah,
know.
you
I
know.
know.
But here, you it's just courtesy. You walk to your right. That person walks to their right. That way
Everybody's moving.
is
Yeah.
moving, and there's no, yeah. So that's one of the things. And then the other part is, we thought that our English, because our education is in English back at home. So you come here, you're confident that your English is solid. And honestly, our English is solid.
It is
But I expect
absolutely.
that theirs would be more solid. But no, theirs is a little bit more backwards.
What
And
was
so
we
you,
talking about?
yeah. So you're busy speaking Queen's English, and they're looking at you as if, what are you saying? When you want to talk about this, is where I learned that you call a toilet bathroom. Who does that?
I know, I know. It's so interesting that you say that, but that's definitely one of the things that we have to get, we get to get used to. And the one about culture and walking on the right side when you're walking. I know that one of the things that I had to get used to was the motorcyclist and the bicyclist and how they have rights on the road.
Hmm.
You can't just honk at them. First, there's no honking. You can't really use your honk. You don't blow your hands that much. And then, if a motorcycle is in your front, they can take their good old time. And you can't just push them to the side to get across. You have to be really like, make sure there's enough space. And if there's not enough space, then they take the lead and you can be driving behind their motorcycle or behind a bicycle for like 5, 10 minutes. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, here in Canada, the pedestrian has the utmost priority.
Mm-hmm.
So once a pedestrian, well, it is well regulated, at least you do have lights. They
Mm-hmm.
should not, they can't just run across the road or walk across the road. That's called jaywalking.
Mm-hmm.
So that's against the law. But let's say you're at the mall where there are no lights.
Mm-hmm.
Once a pedestrian puts his foot forward on the road, they have the road.
Mm-hmm.
You have to wait until
Absolutely.
they're done.
Absolutely, absolutely. So many beauties of, it's a little bit of a shock. I was saying that I just came from Nigeria recently, and I was saying to myself, I don't think this was how I was driving, but it turns out that that's probably how I was driving because that's the only driving I knew at that time before I moved, but you see the differences in how you do things. But you came, you said, to look for better opportunities and to do things. So I wanted us to lean in onto that and how easy has that been? How challenging has that been? What are some of the key challenges you've encountered and how have you been able to navigate that challenge just so that somebody else can learn from your journey?
Thank you. Um, of course, moving to a new place is always not as easy as being in a place where you're coming from. There's this adage in my language that when you get into a new place, when a chicken, a fowl gets into a new place, rather than put both feet down, it lifts up one and just stands on one and surveys the land before he now comfortably puts down the other one. I would say that was one thing that we were able to do with that Center for Newcomers. The way they write their resume is different from the way we write our resume and all of that. So we had to learn, all of those things. And then the work culture is also different. So I had to spend the first couple of months learning all of those things and then start to put out resumes. Now, the story about getting a job is very different for everyone. I would say that I was really fortunate. Within 4 months of coming, I got a job
Okay.
in my area.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I needed to do to get that job in my area was um, to renew my license. So
Okay.
as an ISO auditor back at home, my license was just about expiring when I got here. And before I left home, I consulted with my mentors in the industry because they have international experience, exposure. They go for all the technical committee meetings and all of that. So I asked him, Engineer Abner at the time, I told him, hey, I'm relocating to Canada and this is the status of my license. Should I just renew it before I leave or should I get there? And I was like, I would want you to get there. I would advise that you get there and then go renew it. Because, and in renewing it, you would normally, for that renewal, you have to go through the training
Mm-hmm.
again. It expires every 3 years with that.
Okay.
So, and it was like, I would advise you to go through the training because then you will be in class with people who are in that industry and then you can glean um, the nuances of the industry, there. And then he mentioned something. He said, we always, when we're in class with them, we always excel. So they will notice you.
So this wasn't a relicensing. It wasn't like you had to get a new certification. It was an existing certification that you had, but you had
Correct.
to renew it. And then,
Correct.
yeah.
And fortunately for me, because it's an international standard, so it's the same one that is used there and used here.
Okay.
So, and that was what happened. It cost an arm and a leg. It cost my husband carrying my my bag and everything. I would go in the morning. It was a week training and all of that. But as God would have it, I was fortunate to sit with a bunch of guys that were from one company at lunchtime, and that was the only space that was left. And I sat with them and we're talking, and they asked, if my company sponsored me, and I said no. I self-sponsored because I just came from Nigeria. Oh, they were sponsored by their company. Fortunately, they had one of them had an issue that I helped to resolve with his laptop, what have you. And they were like, they're building a quality team that maybe if I send in my resume, they could put in a word with their manager for me. Gladly, I did that. One thing about here is um, networking is key. Getting a job or making a headway here depends on two key things. One is
Mm-hmm.
information,
Mm-hmm.
the other one is networking.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to connect so that you can get information, and based off information, you can take that action. And so I didn't know these
Which is
guys from nowhere.
not to cut you, but which is, an error that someone might make, maybe that someone might be me, thinking that, all you just have to do is to focus on your competency and be very good at what you're doing. And so when you're very good, you like, that's all you need. But no, you can be very good. And without the information and without the networking, you can find yourself stuck in a place.
All right, totally. So I didn't know these guys from nowhere. It was just in the class, right? And they were the ones that offered, hey, we're building our team. And because I'd connected with them,
Mm-hmm.
just chatting and networking and eating over, talking over a meal and all of that. And long story short, of course, the job got posted. I got interviewed. Yes, the manager was really impressed with my skill and what I needed this one. And fortunately for me, that's how I got into the industry.
Awesome.
It doesn't happen like that for everyone. For some
Mm-hmm.
people, their path is to go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, yes, there's a technical skill, But here, soft skill is what they call it. It plays it plays a 60% of your door opening
Mm.
than the technical skill. The technical skill is what will keep you there because then what you're doing, you know your onions and you're getting it done.
Absolutely.
And that's how we excel there. However, the soft skill is because you're a black person, they're already afraid of you.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So you got to be able to be
And
it's
when you say
much more than
afraid, you mean afraid
accommodating.
like how?
Um, they're like, okay, for some, it's like this person has come to take a job, or this person, you can't trust them, or these people, they're aggressive. Already we talk aggressively, right?
Exactly.
Because we're passionate.
Mm-hmm.
They are more conservative.
Yeah.
And so, unless they're able to trust you, and that trust is built based on your friendliness,
Mm-hmm.
you get friendly with them.
Mm-hmm.
They see that, hey, this person is someone that we can work with, we can smile with, we can eat with. And then they begin to open their door to you. They give the information you need, they can refer you. And that's how you can make a headway in this kind of environment.
Awesome. As you have being on the path of the job, so it was really, in your case, it turned out to be like easy breezy, kind of. You had to be an arm and a leg for it, but you went to this, found the benefits of information and networking straight off. The path from then to now, have you encountered some challenges that you have had to use some special skills? So I really like what you said earlier when you were talking about saying we talk aggressively, so knowing that it's important. Some people will think this is how I talk, that's how I talk, but is that going to get you anywhere? So have you had some things where you have had to dial back and really be intentional and say, I know this is what I learned, I know this is what I used to do, but actually, in order to be able to accomplish what I want, maybe I need to do something differently.
True. So I would bring out two scenarios. The first one was my manager, my initial manager at the time, was an American. And so they were a little bit like us, say it as it is. And my job is such that when you audit, it's either conforming or not conforming. We didn't have an in between language. And so the members of his team that he had already were Canadians. And he wasn't kind of getting the result he needed. So when I came on the team, he was like, this woman can get my result from me. So he posted me on a project that he already saw those things that were going wrong, but he didn't know how to bring them out. I didn't know that. He didn't give me this prior information. So I just went in, audited them against the standard and everything. And my normal way of auditing is a friendly one. And then I came up with a report and sent the report to him and looked at it and was like, nailed it, nailed it, nailed it. Like I gave him a reason to be able to say, yeah, this is what I noticed, but now I have concrete evidence.
Evident.
And he was happy with the report. But then the client, the project that I audited, they needed to sign and they were delaying, delaying, delaying. And then after a while, we're like, what exactly is happening? And so their representative now requested to speak with my manager. So we had a meeting and he was like, I was being punitive. My manager was like, no, the report that I read, there's nothing punitive about it. The language of ISO is you're either conforming with the standard or you're not conforming. So we went through each of those findings and we're like, Was this the same? He said, yes, it was. So what's the problem? But it looks like you're not looking at the good things that we're doing. Da, 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 da. Oh, okay, now I get it. The Canadian style is you can be confrontational. You would package it. You would say, oh, you guys are doing this so well. However, this one needs. So we now had to start changing the language. I did not sleep for 3 nights. I was tossing and turning like, am I going to lose my license for this? Because that's not the language that I understand. That's
Mhm.
not language of my industry.
Mhm.
But their culture does not take that kind of
Mhm.
white or black. So, well, I had to make that adjustment. And honestly, that has really helped me in moving on, understanding the clientele that I was dealing with and the way to place it so that I can get the best out of them without them feeling that you're being punitive. That was one scenario that I needed to change my style, re strategize.
Mhm.
The other scenario was the lady that was even though you would always find this, you would always find it. It might be subtle, but you always find people who would what do you call it? People who have this phobia, and racism, and they kind of like, cover it up.
Mhm.
I didn't think she was a racist. I had no idea about that. But then she now asked me one question, which I responded to initially out of the simplicity of my mind, only for me to have an afterthought and now realize this is what this lady. So she asked me, why did I relocate? Why did I come to Canada? And just the same thing that I shared with you was what I shared with her. And she said, okay, is it that there were no other jobs there and all of that? But later on, as I reflected on it, what she was trying to say was, why did you have to come here to take high jobs? Because then she started to attack my work in a way that it became eventually obvious to our manager at the time that this woman had an issue. So there would be people like that. You because of the way we are open, you might not discover it on time. But if you are sensitive, and I'm not saying read between the lines all the time, but if you're sensitive and you get to know that, just know where to position who, how much information you give to who, and how to manage your pathway.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that, when you mention that is one of the things we also like to talk about on the Diaspora Dialogue series when we talk about the benefits of integration, because there's a question of, oh, why did you come here? And then that the people at home also are saying, oh, just because you're there, don't bother about home. But we say no, we benefit both sides of the aisle. There's benefit to
Mhm.
home that you have people in diaspora, and there's benefit to to this a new land that we are here. Um, what would you say, for instance, is somebody like what's the benefit? Like, I may be here from some other place, but actually, it's a benefit to this land that I'm here. Well, how would you highlight your benefit to somebody here? And then we'll go back and talk about how I highlight a benefit to somebody at home.
So benefit to being here.
For somebody
For
here
one,
who's saying to you, like, why are you here? You're like, I'm making it,
oh yeah, one thing we let them know that I normally let them know is I'm contributing immensely to your economy. And honestly, whenever you look at any of the industries here where you have Nigerians, we lead. They know us for our excellence. There's one manager that hired me because she's had Nigerian friends. And after hiring me, she's hired several others because she knows our work ethics. You guys are highly
I wrote the
professional.
exact word work ethics. I wrote the exact word work ethics.
So if that is, we always bring that standard to them. They would do the number 8 to 5, nothing extra. We will do the extras. We will do the initiatives. We'll bring out things that they haven't thought about. And what we call it, we don't say we have Nigerian experience, we say we have international experience. And that brings diversity into the mix. And you can look at it from a different point of view and you say that, oh, this actually works better than their straight jacket way of looking at it initially.
Absolutely. You talk about Nigerians leading and excellence, and I think that that's one thing we bring to the workplace is our work ethics, top-notch
Mm.
work ethics. Um, Not really doing it necessarily because you're looking for something extra. I
Mm-mm.
remember I was working in non-profit, and then I had a brief stint with the government. And one day my supervisor found me working after 5 p.m. And she was like, "Oh, it's after 5, you shouldn't be working." And I was like, okay. I thought the issue was because I hadn't clocked out. So I clocked out and I continued to work. And she's like, no, you can't work after you've clocked out because that's a liability. You're no longer on the clock. We're not responsible for you. You shouldn't be here. I'm like, but I'm trying to finish this work. I'm almost done. I want to finish it, so that it will be done. And it's like, no, this is where the work stuff, this is where you were at 5 o'clock. That's it. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to finish up or not. You just have to leave the work and go. And I was just like, oh, well, I mean, I have more leeway in the nonprofit because I had done that in nonprofit before, so I really didn't know. But there's that rigidity of like this is what you want to do. But we're the only ones. I've had a speaker cancel last minute, and I'm like, okay, certified health education specialist. I'm a community health educator. Health education is my thing. I will find a way. And instead of canceling the meeting to say my speaker canceled, I'm saying I'm a health educator. I can get this information. I put a presentation together and I'm going to do this training. And my boss is like, child, you can't cancel the meeting. But we draw on our resources, on our competencies, on our experience
Yeah.
directly
Mm-hmm.
related to the job, and,
Mm-hmm.
and not to do. That's what we experience when we're talking here in the land. I've reported a different experience from people in the homeland, and I don't know whether that has been your experience of people saying, you don't live here anymore, so just leave us and let us deal with our issues. Do you find that people are open to you suggestions? Do you get involved in things that are, involving Nigeria? Do people say you have to come home to be involved? Or what do you think? Are you able to contribute even from being in the diaspora?
Yeah, I still contribute. We, one of the things that we made up our minds to do when we were locating here was not to not to cut off from home. There's an adage in Yoruba that "Ọmọ àlè ló máa ń fọwọ́ sí júwèé bàbá ẹ̀." It's a bastard that will use the left hand to describe, oh, are you talking about my father's house? No, we're not bastards. We're Nigerians first before we became Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
So Nigeria will always come first.
Mm-hmm.
So we have kept in touch with home. We go home as often as possible. We were going home almost every year before COVID. And then we had the lockdown for the how
Mm-hmm.
many years? And then yeah. So we were very much in touch with home. And not just in touch with our family and church, but also um, where I worked before, because I worked in a consulting firm. For like my first 3 years, I was still in touch with them. And then recently I faced something on my job that I'd never, in my over 20 years in the industry, I'd never come across. I asked all my colleagues around here, hey, have you, we termed it decommissioning of an IMS. Have you ever done a decommissioning for a management system? Nobody has done it. So I had to go back to my my former ogas. Hey, have you done this before? No. But if I'd burnt the bridge, Makado, there's no how I would be in touch with them and
Mhm.
be able to ask, hey, what do you think? This is what I'm facing, even though the cultures are different. But because we're working with a particular standard and industries, there's no much difference in industries
Mhm.
and industrial practices. It's just the cultures that are different. So once you have a basic understanding of your profession, transferring your skills is not an issue. And so, very much at home. Um, Sometimes I remember there was a time one of my colleagues back then was doing an audit. This was during COVID. He was doing an audit and he involved me, even though it was night at our time, but he involved me in that audit, online. So yeah, it was still pretty much beneficial to home. There's no difference.
And do you stay, do you have a Nigerian community in Canada that you stay in connection with? How do you, so that I will say that, do you have a Nigerian community you stay in connection with, and what do you miss the most about Nigeria? What do you like? Oh God,
Okay, so
Canadian.
those are two different questions.
Yes.
The Nigerian community, yes, even though we're not so involved in the Nigerian Canadian community, just because of some other way things that they are into, but we're involved in the Nigerian diaspora of Americas. That's a more professional body, just
Okay.
because relating there brings out the best in us, and it's more, you're dealing with more professional people.
Okay.
So that's that here. And then one thing that we have done for ourselves here in Calgary is we were welcomed by Nigerians who have the heart of, I need to help my people to settle.
Hmm.
And so we automatically took up that and we've passed it on. So when we have Nigerians that are coming in, those who we know, sometimes they put up with us for a couple of weeks or months before they get settled. And those that we do not know, we just meet on the go. We just let them, hey, this is how it is to navigate this area. Da, 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 da. This, if you want to go this way. So we kind of like try to build that kind of um I wouldn't call it personal, but
Mhm.
community around us. It's
Okay.
just the way it is. You can't see them coming and not help them. We are
Absolutely.
here to help ourselves. We're the only family that we have. My mom is around, and you see them coming from north, south, west, and east to come and say hi to mommy. If your mother is around, I'll come to visit.
Hmm. Hmm. That's nice.
So
Yeah.
that's the way we have all taken ourselves.
Yeah. So it's one big happy family.
Exactly. So that's the community here. And then the other question was, what do we miss? A lot. I miss a lot at home. Hey, sis, do I have to give you prior information that I'm coming to your house before I come? I for don't reach your daughter.
I
Lillian, you there house? I know your
exactly,
dormant, oh. you
exactly,
know. But
exactly.
here, if you not give advance notice, okay, I'll come and see you. Okay, is next week Saturday okay for you? No, the one after, you have to book appointment just to visit. That's not how it is at home.
Yeah,
right?
it's such a it's my sister in New York and I always go through that when somebody's coming, and I would just say, "Oh, somebody's coming," and she'd be like, "How long is the person staying for?" I'm like, "I don't know." I know that they will leave eventually, but I don't say to somebody, "Oh, okay, you're coming. How long are you coming for?" Uh, that's the Nigerian in me. It's just like, come, and then when you're done, you would leave. But she's just like, oh no, you have to know when they're coming, and you have to know how long they're here for, and when they're going. And it's like, oh, okay, sorry. Oh, it's been such a pleasure talking to you, Bukola Ikenga. She's joining us from Calgary in Canada. I'm growing up in Lagos, Nigeria, going to primary school, federal government college, Unilag, pioneering a class at Unilag and thinking that ISO standards and that's the way. But good old marriage got her to Calgary, looking for how to make things better. And she had the extraordinary fortune of recertifying immediately she came, and that allowed you to get a job in your field automatically. But really telling us the importance of networking and information in, working in the diaspora, and being mindful of some practice that comes with us for us. It's talking aggressively is our culture and be mindful for that in the workplace. But for some people like the Canadian is knowing that bluntness sometimes is not the way, and you have to cushion things when you're talking to them. But really excited and proud about the fact that we Nigerians carry a level of excellence that we bring to the workplace, with our
Yeah.
transferable skills that allow us to be able to integrate in different places. Bukola, is there any other thing you'd like to share with us about your life in the diaspora? Somebody wants to know about Nigerians in the diaspora, surviving in the diaspora, or just, living and thriving in the diaspora that we haven't talked about already.
Hmm. Is there? Well, I'm gonna bring the God factor into it. So for us Nigerians, we are mostly, there is the religious part, but there also the people who have a relationship with the Lord. And when we come here, this is a totally different society. If you're not careful, you're going to forget about God. So you have to be intentional. You must be intentional to keep your relationship with God alive. And they would see it. People would see that, hey, this one has the God factor.
Mm,
They may not want to come and be Christians, but when they have challenges, they will come to you and ask you to pray for them
mm, mm,
or uphold them in prayers.
mm, mm, mm,
That is one thing. And then as a female, the other thing I'm going to bring in, I always share this everywhere I go. My first 6 months in diaspora, I saw a different um, pattern. And I had to ask myself, do I want to be like a general Canadian woman? Because in Canada, in the West generally, the woman has priority over the man. Or do I want to be a faith woman?
mm,
I didn't say a Nigerian woman.
mm,
I said a
mm,
faith woman
mm,
because my life is led by the scriptures.
mm,
And so I would rather follow what God wants than what the secular dictates to me.
mm, mm,
So those are things that you might need to have a check on yourself and be intentional so that you don't lose yourself in the crowd. You're
mm,
unique.
mm.
Just find your footing where you belong and bring out the best of yourself. Don't get lost in the crowd. Don't be like them. No, that's not the thing.
We're closing out with those powerful words from our guest today, Bukola Ikega, saying that you can come to the diaspora, but don't lose yourself, especially if you are a believer and there's the God factor. It's easy for you working maybe and not be able to make time for Bible study, church service, and the whole nine yet. but be mindful, because if you keep true to who you are, people around you can actually turn to you as a pillar of support in their time of need, and let that word for her, it's the word that guards the character of who she is as a person and as a woman, and that's kept her going. Bukola, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have had you today. For you listening to us, you're listening to us by podcast and Spotify, Apple, you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, wherever it is. We want to hear from you. Let us know what you think. Share what resonates to you about the story, and we'll look forward to being with you next time. Thank you, Buki.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye.
And thank you, listeners. I'll talk to you another time. Bye.